Theo Mulholland, and welcome to this edition of Art Beat. We are taking you to the Gala at the James Michener Art Museum in Doylestown, and then we'll have an exclusive interview with artist Alan Magee. I think you're in for a treat. Al Renzi is the treasurer of the James A. Michener Art Museum. Al, tell us about the Gala. What's its purpose?
Well, this year we're going to use it for the backdrop of the building program, which is we're kicking off, and hopefully it will be a success, let's put it that way.
Well, what all is planned for this evening?
This evening we're going to have a nice dinner, dancing, a lot to eat and drink, and then we're having a silent auction, having a little piano bar on the side, and that's about it.
What's the main attraction here tonight?
The main attraction is
peanut butter.
Peanut butter, base. I forgot peanut butter, I'm sorry.
I hope you're going to get your face painted out.
I'm waiting in line. I've got a number, and when it comes up, I'll go.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
The museum becomes a magical place during a night gala. Under tents which amplify the laughter and conversation, guests arrive with glitz and smiles, and there's artistic ambiance. There's talk of fashion with a charming New Yorker. I'm here with Cliff Boone, who is a designer from New York, and he has such a fabulous outfit on that I had to stop and talk to him. Cliff, what's the name of your design group?
Well, the design group that we work for is called A.J. Barry. It's a big evening dress house, and it's for real America, but sometimes you make things special for yourself, which is not to, confuse.
Well, we have to see you from both sides here. First,
well, one side is, a colorful American Indian-inspired psychedelic mood, and the other just integrity, black and white, strict,
Spit curl.
Yeah, depending what the night brings, your change of attitudes.
Everyone from gala guests to museum patrons are, like Herman Silverman, enthusiastic about the Michener. Herm is the president of the Board of Trustees for the James A. Michener Art Museum. Is that correct?
You got it perfect.
Please tell us about what's happening here from your point of view, Mr. Silverman.
Well, this is the beginning of our third year. We just finished our third year. We're going into our fourth year. And in the 3 years that we've been building the Michener Art Museum, from the standpoint of the public, from the standpoint of the membership, and also from the standpoint of the wonderful exhibits we've had, it's just been great. And this is a big celebration. The end of our third year and the beginning of it's a birthday party, really. Isn't it great?
It's wonderful. How many people have you estimated have come through the museum since it's
Well, we did
started?
make a count. And so I'm glad you asked that. But we figured about 50,000 people have come through. But the important thing is that they've come from all over the world. I mean, if you would see the booklet that we ask people to sign and see where they come from, it's just great. And from foreign countries, Michener Museum is going to be the celebrity of Bucks County.
It is, and it started so well, but we have more to look forward to.
Oh, yes. I wish the people who are watching this segment of the show could come here and see the great exhibit we have now.
Yes.
We have a marvelous exhibit by Paul Schofield, who is one of our oldest Bucks County. Now we have one by Magee, who's our new Bucks County artist. So we have the old and the new.
Alan Magee's work is hung here at the James A. Michener Art Museum, and it's been a well-attended exhibit. His fine art is beautiful to behold.
This has been sort of bracketed the midpoint of a kind of forming a new definition of art for me. That I see it as more engaged with life, as not a superficial activity that hovers above life, but is very much immersed in life. And so that's why putting this 10 years together, it made me very happy. This is 10 years that I think really registers something that was important for me to share. I began to set aside time for myself and do work of my own, although it's not quite so easy. You can't just one minute be an illustrator and then the next minute be an artist with something important to say. So I began with taking things that were around me and kind of learning to look all over again, learning to see again. The pictures of the pears, my own tools, the picture of the paint tube, firecrackers, things that are elemental and become very beautiful if you spend time with them, but can so easily be neglected. A pear can so easily be picked up and used and eaten, and all of these things have a utility, have a human association, a set of associations already present that's like a gloss, that's like a foil for them. But if you or I, anyone, sits down and spends time looking at those things, they do reveal themselves in a much different way. As if saying, oh, you want to pay attention now? Well, I do have something to show you. I do have a voice. So the show begins with these elemental observations, and I knew even then that this was not my future work, but I was putting together a kind of alphabet of things that I really knew for sure, because I wanted, in fact, to go away from the social involvement that illustration was all about. Illustration is very linked and tied to events in the news and in every way to the movements of the society. I wanted to go away and observe things without intrusion. So that's the beginning. And over that 10 years, this show documents what I think of as a kind of re-engagement with people and their concerns. During the period of time when I knew that I needed to spend a long time with my own work, a beginning, the course of my own work, the stones seemed almost to make themselves available to me, that I walked onto a beach with stones and realized that there was something extraordinarily beautiful there, and that was more powerful than it ought to have been. It was bigger than life. And I didn't really know that it was a therapeutic or helpful kind of relationship beginning, but it turned out that because I found that they engaged me so much that I wanted to paint them, they almost, in a sense, guided me to new discoveries in work. It wasn't pre-planned, and I really didn't think any way, metaphorically, that stones are long-lasting and of ancient history or prehistory, or that they wouldn't change, but it just fit so beautifully together that starting to make paintings of them was the corrective that I needed to readjust to real work. And now, later, I see all these metaphorical connections and how the poetry of it was so right, that there is, of course, a wonderful and marvelous surface beauty which attracted me, and I think which attracts people to the paintings, but there's something much more fundamental at work. I've often found that when something reveals itself as being very beautiful or powerful, usually it has work to do within the personality, within mine or anyone else's. And I've kind of learned from that experience to give myself the time to attend to those things and not neglect them. If anything reveals itself, comes across as that important, then it's probably got some kind of a function. So that's really what the stones were, and I learned that more and more as I worked on them. What I wanted to do was not to make an illusionistic, an extremely real painting of stones. What I really wanted to do was to lift up the stones and say, look at this. What how I've come to see the realism that I made is that it was a kind of stage of life, a kind of necessary learning to look, learning to be attentive. But I think also it has the tendency, it has the capacity to almost usher you in, to lead you into new realms of work, that in effect, after you've worked with it a while, it won't have you any longer. It seems to say, you're really through with this. And obviously I can't take a critical position towards a kind of work that's so valuable, that needs to be done and to such a great extent. I feel like without it, there would have been no way I could have just stepped onto into the kind of work that I'm making now. It needed to go through a realist channel, and that work in a very understanding way, I think, forward. It's as if I find that the best picture that I can put to it, I felt as if I was doing my work and moving along a level road of some sort, really not knowing that anything unusual happened. Then I find that road was a runway of sorts, and the work lifts off from the ground, and that quality of flight, that feeling of flight, was so unlike the groundwork, and it comes with such a clarity of its own necessity that it can hardly be denied at that point. And again, a kind of metaphorical and guiding image was to travel in Europe as part of an exhibition I had over there, and to see the doors in the Italian hill towns, doors on street buildings that were very profoundly marked with time. And once again I felt, this is so magnificently beautiful and important. I need to spend time and look at this and draw these, and I wasn't asking myself, what does a door mean? Sometimes those fundamental questions are just beyond our grasp. We just don't realize what's at work. All I knew was, this is really something great. I came home really without any sketches or anything to remind me about the doors, but I did begin to make pictures of them from memory. And one of the first things to disappear was any kind of access, like the door handles in the doors that I liked. There were no handles, no step to walk up to the door. And I could see that probably this change in the work would have to be something even more fundamental and deep-rooted than I'd imagined. I couldn't just switch subjects, for example, and remain a realistic artist and turn the focus onto something else that I had to change. I think that I never went through that experience that some young people have, where they realize that they want to be an artist. It was such a natural part of my life from when I was a child that no decision really had to be made. I think a decision would have had to be made to stop it, and that really never happened. I just continued with it. I think I was fortunate to have the kind of help from my parents, which was that they allowed me to proceed, and there was really never any advice that I ought to be following another career, or I ought to be looking out to some kind of career through which I could take care of myself. They were willing just to let it happen, and I think partly because of that, and because I think the inclination to do it was so strong, it just proceeded from childhood. I could kind of sense a presence in the old European cities, a kind of record in the cities themselves, in the old walls, and a collection of stories that were, it was just very moving for me. And when I began to work on the faces, I felt that so much of this unknown history, some of it known, of course, but the endurance of stories, of goodwill through very distressing times, began to be part of these faces as well. That some of the faces look as if there's almost a quality of old architecture that's marked by the passage of various social structures and regimes. But the faces are yet of individuals, but seem to understand and embody a lot of that history. And while I was conscious of working with an anxiety, I was also hoping that I would be able to find some level, something in the work that would give me a position of calm and acceptance of the situation, which was very distressing. And as I began to get nearer to the conclusion of the series, the faces seemed to close their eyes of their own will, and kind of express a kind of resolve and understanding. And I felt that I was being helped to make them by a kind of a collection of lives that, let me try to say this differently. This is not so difficult to say, but it's difficult to say for a permanent record, because there's an element of madness in it, which is right. Yeah, no, I want to say it, but I want to say it in a way that can be that could be accepted on a very factual, material level, but also doesn't diminish the actual experience as it was for me. I think what happened as I began to allow these faces to speak for themselves, a certain calm seemed to generate from them, and I was conscious of a very long time span of living things that had endured not only a crisis in the world of this kind, but of all imaginable kinds that stretched back to infinitely vast history, and that the memory of these things encompassed not only human but almost an animal understanding. And this seemed to correspond to pictures that seemed to come up out of the ink of animal visages of what I later called the spirit, which seemed to be a combination of human memory stretched back so far that it really contains animal and pre-human experience. And not really with a conscious effort on my part to illustrate these feelings, but the feelings and work seem to come as one experience. As a visual artist, you don't have power to change an event in society, but yet you can change your position toward it. You can find a place for yourself to stand within it. And I think that was perhaps what I was looking for all through the work in the mid and late 80s, through a period of accusation and disappointment, and really wondering what the role of an artist is. How much responsibility does one have? What are the possibilities of actually having an effect of any kind? And I think that the answer seemed to come through this acceptance and understanding of strife as being an integral part of life, and it is the thing that can be learned and found. I'm still very interested in the area of the small puppet figures and using them to make animated films. Lately I've become very interested in this genre of puppet animation from Eastern Europe, mostly through the introduction of this work through a couple of friends of mine that make marvelous films in London. They're known as the Brothers Quay, Timothy and Stephen Quay. And having found this area of work, it seems like it's a very natural and appropriate direction to work in. I like to work in it because it's a field that combines the child's play that was very helpful to me over the last years, and a kind of an ability to comment, to engage with life in a way that only film can, with its potential for narrative and movement through time. Well, I've thought about this obviously very long and tried to come up with an answer that was my answer. I think it's very hard to take another person's answer, but I think that first I think it needs to help people and be accessible and available to people as not only a comfort, but a challenge, a provocation, and then a help as well. Of all the theorists about art that have tried to pin it down to its function, I think it's something that Tolstoy said that is most fundamental to my belief in that art charts the human kind's progress through new spiritual revelations, and I believe that is true in the very best sense. There are many uses of art. There are beautiful and fine decorative arts, there are entertainment arts, but art as I know it and as it really engages me, it seems to be there and available when observations of the spirit are made, and it records those things. And I know that art now is very influenced by investment, by business, by large institutions with the needs of their own and agendas of their own that need to attract a broad public and need to keep themselves in a lot of funds. But still, I think that at bottom, arts that are made in that kind of innocence to record real experience are out there, and when you run across them, you have a sense of finding the genuine. And I believe it's unmistakable. Having answered the question for myself, I know what I need, and I'm instantly drawn to it, and there's no mistaking it for anything else. As Weston said in that note in his journals that nature is the great teacher, I think that it's important also not to distance oneself from the source of that, of those engines that have made it possible for you to see a little bit above the ground. So I don't really know where the appropriate place to live is, but I have a feeling that if a doorway separates the material world from the world of the imagination, perhaps to stand in the door is a very good place to be.
We now return to the Gala and Mr. Silverman.
We're going to be building a lot of space here. We're adding some what they call marvelous waters. We're going to try to raise $1.5 million.
That never deters you, does it?
Well, I wake up a little bit in the middle of the night and say, hey, what am I doing, But unless you've got a goal and a dream, it never happens. We figured out 20 years to get to where we are tonight. And Michener, I spoke to him the other day, and he said, Herman, I'm going up to see him next week, and hopefully he'll be down here when we open up the big new addition. He said, if you build it, people will fill it.
Oh,
and that's what we're going to do. We've gotten about 2,600 pieces, that I think you read that people have donated already to us. So we've got to put them somewhere. We needed 3 more galleries, and that's what we're going to try to do.
Bruce Katzif is the director of the James A. Michener Art Museum. Bruce, tell us about the expansion plans.
Well, we're very excited because we're going to more than double our exhibition space. We're going to add about 14,000 square feet with 3 new galleries, very specifically designed for the artwork that they will be exhibiting. In order to understand what we're doing, I think these graphic images make it very clear. This is the existing Michener Museum. And as you see, there are basically 2 spaces. The gallery that we're currently in, called the Silverman Gallery, and then a separate gallery called the Byers Gallery. And the fact that those 2 rooms are not together is one of the difficult problems we're trying to address. Walk over to the new or the proposed facility.
Wow. That's good.
I think you can see the dramatic additions. You can understand how we are more than doubling the square footage. Very important, we are tying together the 2 spaces and creating a single entrance to the museum. A whole new facade across the front, a grand entrance hall, a new seminar room or classroom, a series of terraces and enclosed sculpture gardens, a museum shop. We also are adding, as you can see, 4 new galleries. Here, 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 and here. I mentioned before, this is the gallery for prints, drawings, and photographs. This is the very large changing exhibits gallery, and all of the rest of the space will be for the permanent collection. In addition, there's a very large freight elevator that will take art up and down from the conservation level, which is below the first floor. Maybe we could walk over and take a quick peek at some of these drawings. I think this gives you a clear image of the new facade. This is what you would see as you walk up the hill from the library, a new stone facade that will tie together the field stone from either side and these beautiful standing seam roofs that we will pick up in all of the new spaces to repeat the roofs that currently exist in the library. So I think we're talking about a very beautiful expansion that will both be exquisite from the outside and from a functional point of view allow the institution to do much, much more than we're currently doing.
There comes a time in a man's life when he says, what do you really want to do? I mean, is business all that you're going to do? But I would like to say this, that if there's any business person watching this show, they should understand that they've got to give back to the community. I picked on art because we have kids in our family who are interested in art. And when I was a kid, that was all I could afford to do, free. I'd walk down to the Art Museum in Philadelphia, in the Rodin Museum, and it was free. And I got to see all these great pictures. And I said, hey, there must be something to this stuff.
And it added some joy to your life.
Yeah, and I said, look, this is great. Why can't we? And now that I see it, I realize that we can have it here for our kids to see. And our kids are coming. We had some 10,000 kids went through here in the last couple of weeks, last couple of years, and we're going to have more on our new. We have a children's museum, you know, in our new buildings. So I'm so enthusiastic about what's happening in Bucks County, because Bucks County is the home of the artists. If you get on an airplane, as I do, and talk to you're where those artists are. You're where Pearl Buck and Michener and Hammerstein and Redfield. We got to keep that alive.
Peanut Butter and his assistant Zilly were applying facial decorations during the evening. I also took the artistic plunge.
Well, you got to take advantage of these last days. Oops.
Now, can I keep this until Monday? I'd love to start my classes with a face like this. What do I do, wrap my face in toilet paper or something? Here we see the tools of Peanut Butter's trade. This feels exciting. Many guests gave a donation to the museum and assumed facial disguises a la Zilly and Peanut Butter. All part of the excitement about the changing face of the Michener Museum.